Going.
Okay.
Yeah. What was the food like?
Well, I'll tell you, it was just like going to a restaurant most of the time. We had the best food there was in the world. But this is something you never think about. We used to feed the Marines. We used to feed them. Everybody come in and feed them. But we used to, like I say, our officers used to trade booze for meat, fresh meat. They even on Okinawa they built a little small restaurant we had a big restaurant, built a big restaurant for the people, but then the officers they had built a little restaurant. So they asked we had one Mexican boy that used to cook for them, real nice kid about my age. There wasn't many my age in there. I had to be with all the old guys, you know. Anyway, they needed someone to help them, so I volunteered to help them. I learned to cook that way with them. I get fresh meat, booze if I wanted it, you know. So that's we ate good. We ate good, real good.
That's amazing, actually, because the Marines didn't.
Marines used to come in there and they never knew they could get good meal like that. But we also had kids that never had much to eat. That was on the island when we first got there. And I give my meal away many a times to them when we first got there. But then on the end there, it worked pretty good. It ended up pretty good. That was after the war ended too. I was on Okinawa when the war ended. When on that, I can remember the night that the plane went over with the big bomb. We were sitting in a movie theater, pictures in there, the theater we sat in, and they stopped the movie theater and they said, "Put your head down and pray. That's the plane going over now. That's going over to drop the big bomb." And then right after that, the war ended. After that fell down. And then we had a meeting, or some big officer come over about maybe a week or so later and says, "I'll have you all home by Christmas." And sure enough, we got home by Christmas. But I came back on a hospital ship when I came back. I didn't take me 3 months to get back like it took me 3 months to get over. And
That's amazing. So what was the worst part of being deployed, of being over in the? I mean, what was the worst part of being? Is it the work or the combat or the food or?
I think the worst part of being away from home at my age, because I was young, you know. I really didn't. I don't think I was ever really. There was a few times that it got rough. There's a couple of times I probably will never mention it about it, but it wouldn't be nice to mention something against the Japanese now because we're pretty well friends with the Japanese right now. But they had bad things, real bad things, you know. Their life didn't mean much to anybody, and that was it. You know. I don't know. I think just being away from home mostly. In fact, two times while I was over there for what I was overseas most of the time for over 2 years overseas away from home. But I had two trips. I had 2 trips to an island named New Caledonia. Now, New Caledonia it's not too far from Australia. And we had to go by ship, so it took a long time to get back and forth from wherever we were. I think I was on Saipan one time I went back because our outfit changed. I think I was on one time before on Okinawa. I think I went there. It's a French island. It wasn't much, but we only had a week there. But we stood there for about a month. Because when we got there, they wanted our outfit to build a big building for them, and then build a bridge, a different bridge over there. So we had to go and camp out for a while, and this was it was a French. There was French people there, and on the way, we went there. We rebuilt the bridge, but in the meantime. We'd just during the day we'd build a bridge. That night we'd go back to our little pup tents we had, or where we built. then we could walk around to the village, and a lot of times we used to go to people used to bring us in, and we'd get food. They'd fry eggs for us and steak and everything else, we wanted. They weren't natives; they were people that lived on the island. It's a French island. I don't know if you ever heard of New Caledonia.
Yeah. So what were some of the other guys that were in your unit or that you worked with? Funny guys, or any funny stories that you remember that, oh my gosh, I remember that guy, he was crazy? Or
I had one guy that slept in the same barracks, or the same tent. I slept in a tent, and I slept in a hammock. Most of the guys wanted to sleep in a bed. I always slept in a hammock. Well, the one guy that was in my tent, he must have been maybe, I don't know, maybe in his late 40s, from Texas. And I had another guy that was from California, and he was from Hollywood, and he knew all the big movie stars and everything else. But but his job was, I don't know, because this was on New Caledonia when these guys were there. But the guy from Texas wanted to play cards all the time. He wanted to play poker. He didn't care who. But anyway, they had a poker. We had a regular guy made a regular poker place and used to play poker at night. Sit there and poker, and they'd play dice. But this one guy from California, he was always brag about he knew all the movie stars and that. Well, no one believed him, But anyway, Bob Hope was coming into town. They're into there, and he's going to have a show going on. So I'm laying in my tent, I'm working at night or something, sleeping in the morning. I open my eyes and open the door, and there's Bob Hope standing in there talking to this guy. I says, I guess they'll believe him now, I don't remember. I remember who was with Bob Hope, but there was about 3 or 4 people with him. But he knew Bob Hope. He knew them all.
And you guys made your own liquor, didn't you? Bet you had a still somewhere.
No, they didn't. We never had to. No, we never had them. They could have. They might have, but I don't know, because I was young. I didn't know what was going on over there. I also met my buddy from my hometown. He was in an outfit. Maybe this was on Okinawa. He was. I don't know. I knew what outfit he was in by talking to his brother and stuff. He came out of a family of about 11, 12 kids. There was 7 of them, 7 boys in the service. Anyway, I found out where he was. I called down there, and he says, yeah, he's down there. So I went over to, I worked for motor pools. I went down and got a Jeep. I got a case of beer out of the barracks, put the case of beer in, went down maybe 5, 6 miles away, and saw my buddy. Pretty good, at that time.
So what did you do after the war? After you got back, what did you do?
Well, I didn't do much. I came home, and naturally I had almost 3 years, so I get 3 months. But I didn't before I got discharged. I come home. I never had enough points to get out, so they put me in Chicago, and Navy Pier. So there's maybe 15, 20 of us Seabees in Navy Pier. So the Navy couldn't do nothing with us. They couldn't tell us what to do because I was a Seabee. I was still Navy, but Seabee. So they figured, geez, what are we going to do with these 15, 20 guys? So what they did is they took us off of Navy Pier and they put us into a tower hall, a hotel, right down the loop of Chicago. So I stayed in the loop of Chicago with, now I don't remember the guy's name who was a buddy of mine, but him and I, we stayed in one room together. They did our bedding, they did our laundry. We could eat there, get what we wanted. We were called shore police. It's shore police, but it wasn't that way. One could carry a gun, one could carry a club. Well, the older guy carried a gun, and I carried the club. And that's all we did is work maybe one day a week. The rest of the time you did what you want. You're waiting for points to get out of there. So what you did, we just walked around into different places in Chicago and enjoyed ourselves.
So after you got enough points, what'd you do?
I got enough points, I decided, well, I better go home. I had a girlfriend there too. I had to leave her too. I went home. Anyway, I had to go in and I had to get discharged. Well, I had malaria. I had a few little things wrong with me, but I'm young, I wanted to get out. The guy said, well, he says, you can stay here. He says, it might take you 6 months, it may take you a year. He says, they'll have to give you a test and all that stuff. He says, no, I'm going to go home. So I decided to go home and not take anything of it. So, but the malaria didn't ever bother me after that for a while. So.
Of course. Jeez.
Shaky.
So what were your officers like?
Well, I'll tell you, people don't believe me when I tell them that. They never wore their. We never had a salute. We never had to take any kind of inspections. Nothing. They were, and in fact, a lot of them lived with us. They ate with us and slept with us. Same we did. Until it got maybe after everything got settled, the war was getting over and everything else. Then they had to be officers. But there was no military, no salute and all that in the service at all over there. With our guys, we never had to do it. They were human beings, like we were. And most of them were businessmen that came out of the States. They weren't no 90-day wanderers. They were men. 90-day wanderer is somebody comes out of college and he makes officer. That's what they call a 90-day wanderer. Never heard of it.
Why? Why do they call them that?
Because that's 90 days they made him an officer. These guys here were in business for 20, 30 years, and they're in there. They know what they're doing. Yeah.
Wow. Any other stories?
No, I don't know how to make back. I can't think of any right now. There are some pictures in there of our officers, and you can see that. Oh, there's one when I was on Okinawa when Douglas MacArthur lost the Philippines. He got kicked out of the Philippines. That was just when I first went into Okinawa. And I remember when when he came back, he came into Okinawa from the Philippines. And I was there when he came off the airplane. And there was quite a few officers. Where he went from there, I have no idea, but I know that's where he landed. They used to call him Dugout Doug.
Why?
He dug out. He didn't stay. But they went back and got the Philippines anyway. So.
Were you in the Philippines as well?
I went through the Philippines. I didn't go off on the Philippines. I've been through it.
What was the worst place to stay? The Okinawa or the Gilbert Islands, or?
I think Saipan was the worst place. You know. We had a pretty bad accident in Saipan. I remember when we got there, we unloaded everything, we all got in. This is when the war was going pretty good. They had established an airport there already. The Seabees ahead of us probably did it. And we were all in a tent, and I heard there was a plane going off, and all of a sudden, either the plane, I remember the plane come down, or if the plane come down not too far from us, and a bomb went off. And there was in that barracks there might have been maybe 15 people in there, and I think about 3 of us lived, the rest didn't. So I don't know, whatever. It's been a long time. I remember we all ended up in a hospital for a while, but I shook up for a while, but that wasn't too bad. That's all. The only thing is I didn't know too many of the people in there because we were all coming in from different places at the time, so. I think that was in Saipan, I think.
Any other stories you want to add, or things you remember, or good, bad, or otherwise?
No, I don't think so, no.
I think I got all my questions.
Have you?
I was going to ask if you met any Japanese, but unlike Carl, well, even Carl said he never really met any Germans.
No, I met a lot of the natives that lived there, and they were very, very friendly. Now if they were Japanese. Oh, one thing I forgot to tell you. Has this got time on her? You know, when after the
Oh, I'm sorry.